If you are experiencing foundation issues, get a free estimate from Ox Foundations.
Coach Adam Fossett, the head football coach and athletic director at B.B. Comer High School, joins us for a few minutes this morning. Coach, good morning. And just getting through the coaches' media days earlier this week, and now full pads for the team today.
Yeah, so media day was Wednesday. Took Corey Anderson, who will be a junior, and Jacob Price, who will be a senior. They represented our guys and went with us at media day, and it was a good day, good opportunity to talk about the program and talk about where we're headed, and kind of our goals and an assessment of what's been going on. So, it's such an unprecedented time, and it's so different, and there's no guideline, there's no COVID for Dummies book that you can go by and read up on this and how you should handle this, how you should handle that. So it's changed the spectrum very much, and it's made it. You want as much normalcy as you can get for these kids, but it's hard to tell. It's hard to get through to 35 guys. Hey, you guys have to be, 6 feet apart. You have to be, distance. You have to have a mask. You have to have, you have to have your own water bottle. And when you have your water bottle, you need to know where it is. And it's just it changes how you do everything. And it changes how you handle practices, how you conduct practices, and how you conduct, getting pads to them, getting equipment to them, sanitizing that equipment daily and stuff like that. So it's been a challenge. The kids have done well with it, but this stuff changes from day to day, and you just wait. You just every time there's a news, every time there's some sort of news flash about the numbers, or you hear high school sports, or you hear. You look at the states around you, and Georgia's making some decisions on their season, and then you hear, well, we may not have but so many fans, or you may not have this, or you may not have that. So it's kind of stressful. It's causing a lot of gray hairs. So but we will continue. I tell our guys we're going to move forward. We're preparing as though we're going to play. And that's the plan. We're going to play in 3 weeks and be ready to go.
Coming off playoff appearance last year, what about this Tiger team? I know it has to be difficult to get your arms around all of this to coach your players.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think has helped us is coming off of a playoff appearance and being improving. Year one is 2-8, and nobody wants to go 2-8, obviously. But you come into year two, and we go to Pleasant Valley and win that game, and that's a game that you're not supposed to win on paper. So we win that game, and it gives us an opportunity to make the playoffs. And some things had to happen. Well, those things did happen. So we make the playoffs as a 4 seed, and then we go to Fultondale and win that game. And all of a sudden, you're hosting a game here
for the first time in forever.
Yeah, first time in forever. So that momentum, I attribute that momentum from last year as a carryover to why our numbers are so strong this year, and why we've been consistent with workouts, and those guys have shown up. So we started June 8th with about 40 kids, 40 guys, varsity football guys, and today we'll have 35 at practice. So that's a huge tribute to our guys and their buy-in. But I was telling somebody the other day, if you go 2-8 and 2-8, we don't have 35 kids at practice. It's just it's the psychology of it. Why would I be out here if we're not getting better? Why would I be out here if And that's unfortunately that's the mentality of some kids these days. So this group of guys, through the success from last year, though, this group of guys is very resilient. They're very tough. and we're trying to. I spoke to them yesterday after practice. The goal is to be mentally and physically tougher, so that once we get to games, practices are supposed to be tough. Practices are supposed to be hard. Once you get to games, games should be easy. That's kind of the on Fridays. That's what you've put together all week. That's what you practice for all week. Friday is you get one shot. You don't get a do-over. We mess up a play or special teams, like we're putting in our special team stuff, and all right, come back, do it again. Well, we don't get a do-over on kickoff. If you don't stay in your lane, they're going to score 6, and we're going to be down early, and we don't get a do-over. So, but during practice, our practices are we try to. My staff does a good job with practice, with our practice schedule and the flow of our practice and the toughness of our practices. That once we do get cut loose for game week, we should be okay.
Yeah. Look at this football team, and your first day of pads is today, and we've just seen overnight where Adiana is having some real problems with their football team, with one contracting COVID-19. It's one thing to have your team with you, but when they're dismissed, when they're released to go to their homes or wherever, you kind of then you're just holding your breath.
Yes, yeah. That's the tough part is once we have them, we know where they are when we have them, and that's in a typical school year. This is a typical summer right before school starts. This is the good time for me because. Without all this going on, I love when school starts because I know where they are basically 10, 11 hours of the day. And they're at school, then they're at practice. I know exactly where they are. So now you throw in a pandemic and you don't have to worry about where they are, but it's tough to tell 15, 16-year-old kids that are living in a neighborhood together, hey, look, you got to stay away from these people. You got to stay away from those people.
Go in the house and stay there. You can't do that.
Yeah, go in the house and stay there. So, I even have some kids that are like, Coach, I'm tired of playing video games. I never thought I'd hear that, But the contact that they have away from us is you cannot monitor it, They talk about contact tracing and things like that. It's got to be almost impossible to contact trace everything, every individual that they're living. They're living with family, and then they're going and visiting family, but then they're coming to practice, and then they're going to they're playing a pickup game on Saturday at one of their buddies' houses or whatever the case may be. So it's very tough, and you want to be you want to find a way to put these kids in a bubble, and it's just impossible, and that's the tough part. I think you look at the different levels. You look at the NBA. Those guys are they're in a bubble, and they've been able to stay clear. But then you look at Major League Baseball, and it's just in mass numbers. So you look at the Marlins. They had, I can't even remember how many, 14 or 17 all at one time. You look at those mass numbers, and that's what scares you as a coach. And you see the news break on Aniana, they're going to be quarantined for 14 days, and the season starts in 2 weeks. I mean, we're at we're 2 Fridays away from high school football based on the schedule, But you cringe and you kind of hold your breath anytime you hear anything. Every time I open my email and there's a email from the AHSA. I just kind of pause before I open it because I'm terrified to know what it says. I wouldn't want their job. I would not want to be in the AHSA's shoes because they're having to make some tough decisions. They're having to, they're at the top of the high school athletics, and they have the Central Board of Control, and they have to make some tough decisions and things like that. So again, they don't have a guideline that they, you know, there's not somebody that's done this before, so they can't refer back to somebody else and say, well, how did you guys handle this? It's kind of, this is all new to everybody.
Yeah. A lot of the decisions, Coach Savarese and his staff is handing off to the local schools to make those decisions. A lot of question about, you know, competitors, they feed off, their energy comes from the crowds, the excitement of the crowds, and who knows what's going to happen with fans in the stands or not in the stands.
Yeah, that's a concern too, as fans, you know, what we feed off the energy. Our kids feed off the energy of the crowd. That was a huge, our crowd at the playoff game at Fultondale was a huge factor in our guys' performance. Like, well, you know, we're down 2 scores early in that game, and we're not doing anything positive. And then we get a little momentum, and all of a sudden our fan base, you know, they kind of get into it, and they kind of get woken up, and then they start making noise. Well, that gets the band excited, and they start making noise, and you know, all of a sudden our sideline's loud. Well, our kids love that. So you look at, you know, the possibility of going on 50%. 50% fans, that's half the fans that you would have, and then you start looking at other factors. You start looking at financial factors. Well, financially, you got to be able to pay the bills, and at half the people, that may cause some issues financially to be able to fund everything that is involved in football with officials and power bills and pregame meals and all the different things that are involved with running a program. So, and then you look at the bands. So there's schools there's already schools that have said the visiting team's band can't come. There's schools that, you know, based on the week of, you know, make a contact and we'll decide the week of based on what's going on. So it's going to be, this is such a day-to-day thing. It's not, you can't plan a week ahead, and you can't plan, you know, my biggest fear is we're going to get to game week and the numbers are going to go through the roof, and then they're going to say, hey, we're going to push the season back, or hey, we're going to have to cancel the season, or, you know, it terrifies me, you know. And
that's a real possibility.
Yeah, it's a real possibility. And you want to be very transparent with your guys. And I tell our guys, we're preparing as though we're playing. That needs to be your mentality, is that we're going to prepare as though we play on the 27th, and we got to be ready to go. So, and then with that, it still looms in some of the kids' minds, you know, and we may not even play, you know, but it goes back to the resiliency part of it, is that, you know, we've had pretty good practices. We've had pretty good, you know, again, that momentum. It's just everything kind of feeds off everything else. So the momentum of a good season and playoffs was good for us, whereas, you know, this pandemic looms over you, and you're like, you know, you're just holding on. Hey, let's get some games in. Let's play. The kids deserve to play. They put in the work. The cheerleaders deserve to cheer. The band deserves to, you know. But also as an adult being responsible for these kids, you're like, man, what is the best thing for these kids? What is the best situation? What do we need to do to make sure we give them the best opportunity to get to play? So, and it goes into it goes back to the sanitizing and things like that. That's our county system has provided us with looks like a Ghostbusters gun is what it looks like, but I call it the Ecto gun. They've provided us with that, and we share that with Mr. Seaborn, who's our band director, and we spray everything down. If it's not moving, we spray it down. I mean, it's and it takes, for me to spray down the weight room, the locker room, and the gym area, it takes probably about 30 minutes.
So before we go this morning, you got first day of pads today, and you've got all these guidelines that are having to be fulfilled as well. Who keeps up with all this stuff?
Who keeps up with the guidelines, or who keeps up with making sure everything's done?
Actually, you got it meshing together because you got to coach a football team, but yet you're responsible too to make sure all these other things are done.
Yeah, it's very stressful keeping up with it. You know, I have to attribute though. I have overall coaching staff. You know, we're talking the entire coaching staff. I have a great staff of coaches that help me out football wise, and then we were able to hire. We had two female coaches on board. And we were able to hire three female coaches. So we have five female coaches on staff this year, which is the most that we've had since I've been there. And being able to work together with all of them and delegate to them, you know, that's the key, is delegating stuff out to them. And our female staff has done a great job doing temperatures for us in the morning. They do temperatures at the car check-in line, and sanitizer, and then we handle the sanitation of the stuff, the equipment and things like that as far as the male coaches go. But it's a team effort, and it literally, you know, my wife and I discuss it, like it stresses me out because I'm a fixer and I can't fix this. You know. So it makes it tough.
And then you got to coach football too.
That's right.
So,
that too.
Get at it this morning. Coach Adam Fossett, the head football coach and athletic director at BB Comer. Tigers' first practice in pads today, and going to be a hot one, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. We appreciate all of you watching Daybreak Live. We've got more coming up right after this.